is a time that I want to be doing some training or some exchange. So I communicated it to Dr. Majo. They agreed that, okay, we want to host me, and then make it today, this day possible, that I should take this opportunity to present my work. And I mean, if you have seen me here, I'm here to present my proposal and how my PhD is taking shape. Actually, it's a great opportunity for me. I'm so happy and I appreciate that. This is one of the things that we PhD students, we are always expecting, because it's something that is inextricable, something that you can never avoid, because it's going to be part of us. And always you'll be standing in front of people to present works, and now going to seminars and conferences. And if such an opportunity that has been offered me, I think is a great step for me, and I'm really happy about it. And I'm also happy about the people that are available to also listen to me and made their time, to come, or whether they are online to listen to me. I also appreciate that, and I'm really happy. And as also today, I don't know how it fell on this day, because today is a memorable day, as today happens to be my birthday. And together, I'm so happy to be part of you in such an August university. I appreciate that. I think I will go into what brought me here. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Only if you click now, it will.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is a question I normally ask, whether anybody has ever lived in a rural place or has ever been to an African setting to see how the rural place look like, how the people love themselves, the kind of help that they give to another, the unstinted help, the kind of concern towards the other. It's worth to know about that. I want to talk about my experience, as I have ever lived in such a place before. And you see, normally the rural places are with nucleated settlements. That is, the settlements are not dispersed, they are really close. That physical contact when you are in Africa. And even when someone even mentions the name, when a child even mentions the name, just the same name could tell you even the father of that person. That we are so close that we know the other. And these are some of the things helping the other. And sometimes when there is any kind of developmental project, you see people throng there, everybody surrounding there like what you see, just to help. These are kind of concern that they give. I remember when I was in a rural place, normally it was a farming community, and it was a community that people go to farm and then you come, that was their daily thing that they was doing. And one thing is that when some people go to farm and they don't return, when someone goes to farm and doesn't return, normally it's communicated to the eldest or the chief of the town. And then the town crier will pick that and communicate it to the people in the community. What he does is that we have a certain metal structure, rectangular structure placed in the street, in the community, where it has something in the middle, metal form like a pendulum that swings. So when he hits it, it echoes everywhere in the town. With the town with no light, and everybody gets to hear that. The moment you hear that sound, you know that there's an information that they want to put across. And this information, they will tell us that someone went to the farm, the person has not returned, and therefore the men in this community has to come out, mobilize themselves, and go and search for the person in the farm in the night, like forest. So the men will gather, mobilize themselves, and they go there shouting. as to scare animals, and if the person gets to hear, I mean, the person could know that people are coming for him or her. Sometimes they go, they find, sometimes they don't. What am I saying? I'm talking about the kind of concern and the support that rural people have for one another. But do they channel this kind of concern and support in providing education to children in the rural places? This is really a concern. And this topic really came into being. It came to mind, this research came into mind when I was being posted into a rural place to do my national service after my degree. And it was a place that normally you find children, it was a school, just 3 classroom block. And then it was a junior high school with other 2 blocks, one for the headmaster and one for the teaching staff. When I was going to school to teach, you find that some of the children are working. In the morning that they have to come to school, some of them will be working, some of them will be helping their mothers, helping at the market instead of going to school. Well, they will come to school, but when they come to school, they are late. And you know, such a child is already tired. And whatever the teacher teaches in class, what can that child retain? And this, when after school too, when they go home, they are still going to what? To work again for their parents and all other things. And this had a reflection in their basic education exams, where that you find only few people passing to enter into the secondary education. And it was a school that when you even offer free extra classes for the students, you find nobody coming to the class. And this really was my preoccupation. And I asked, actually, what is really inhibiting this, and what is inhibiting the parents and the community members in helping the children as they see the children in the community and all that? What do? How do they provide for quality education for the children? This led to the topic of community and parent involvement in basic education in the rural area. That is why I chose this topic. Actually, there has been a considerable amount of, there have been a growing research on, this is the rationale. There has been a growing research on community and parent involvement, which actually help to foster educational aspirations and also helps in retention of quality education and also local educational problems. Actually, the government of Ghana spent a considerable amount of money, about 10 to 12% of its GDP, in providing education. And the government of Ghana has provided certain alleviation programs, certain interventions to help education in the rural areas or in Ghana in general. There is the FQ, which is the free compulsory basic education, where everybody goes to school for free. And there is the school feeding program, so that when the children go to school, they can eat freely and they cannot blame anybody that because of poverty or other thing. And there is also the education capitation grants for the schools to assist the schools to be buying whatever they want. But despite all these, there exists what? School dropouts, low educational attainment, local academic performance. Actually, Dragia and Sullivan, in his research in Uganda, is saying that the high access to the high drop rate of students in this rural area is because parents tend to overburden their children and they tend to choose money over education. That is, using their children to work for money than allowing their children to go to school. Another research from Namuka and Cambridge also said that the parents also do complain of the conflicting roles of their children going to school and their children staying at home. They prefer their children to be at home so that they can help and cater for them and fend for them, go to work and help them at home. So the parents at home are thinking that their children will always stay in the house for them to be happy. Well, there seem to be, many governments are saying that because of how this parent and community involvement, as they do not really look at quality education, and there are a lot of researchers which are also saying that when parent and community members are involved in quality education or are involved in education, it brings, there is hope. As the children tend to learn, the children, when they involve themselves, it brings a lot of higher academic achievements. And because of that, there are many governments which have also included these community and parents in the participation and management of the schools. In my country, for example, the government has also delegated some power or some decision making to the parents and the community to involve themselves in the quality of education in the rural areas. And the forum of which parents and communities can participate is through what we call the PTA, that is the Parent Teacher Association. And also we have the SMC, which is the School Member Committee. I brought the functions of these, the composition of these people. The Parent Teacher Association includes the parents, the guardians, the parents or the guardians, and the teachers who are interested in children's education. And we also have the SMC, which include the SMC. These are the composition of the SMC. And these people represent the community members. And the SMC includes the district direct educator, or the district director of education at that place, the headmaster, the district assembly, or usually we call that assemblyman. He represents the government in the place or in the town. And we have a representative appointed by the chief. In Africa, every town or village has a chief. So this chief will bring a representative to be part of the SMC. And we also have two members of teaching staff. We also have a representative from the PTA, which is the Parent Teacher Association, and an old student of the school that live in the community. So these are the composition of the community members. I brought their functions, and we have the PTA. The functions of the PTA is to assist in school maintenance and repair infrastructure, see to the children's or the head teachers' welfare. They are to see to the performance of children, visit school regularly to monitor children's performance, help in solving school problems, help maintain discipline, and cooperate with the organization. The SMCs too also have to control the general policy of the school, avoid encroaching upon the authority of the headmaster, present periodic reports to the district education committee through the director of education, ensure the premises of the schools are kept in sanitary and structurally in good state of repair, help the headmaster in solving conflicts and refer serious disciplinary cases and negotiating land. Well, according to Donko and Wack, he said that an important factor that may support improvement in standard and quality education is the active involvement of parents in their children's education and the need for full support of community members. Actually, there has been a lot of research that has been conducted on parent involvement. But looking at parent and community involvement is actually of a less concern. And therefore, Kendall, he says that there is a limited research and studies that focus on community and parent involvement in Africa. Although a lot of research on parent and community involvement is widely conducted for South Asia, South America, and then OECD countries. And therefore, this research explores community and parent involvement in the rural areas, the basic education in the rural areas. These are my main objectives, is to understand the involvement of community members and parents in the quality of basic education in the rural Ghana. And I looked at the research questions. How do community members and parents perceive quality education? And how does the perception of community members and parents affect quality education? What elements of quality education are community and parents engaged in at the case study school? And what are the barriers to or facilitators of community members and parents in quality education? And what are the alternative strategies which might effectively involve the community members and parents in quality education in the case study schools? Well, my theoretical framework took shape in the form of a scoping review, where I settled on 43 articles which have been done in rural areas. The review actually considered all countries to look at a worldwide view of how education takes place and how parents and community members involve themselves or participate. And this was to help reveal the untouched areas in the dominant literature of this subject. Actually, I adopted scoping review itself helps to map the extent and nature of a particular topic. It helps us to know the period that certain research has been done in a particular field. It helps us to know the way research has been conducted in a certain area. And with scoping review, it helps us to disseminate and summarize findings. It also helps us to identify gaps and also help us when you want to take a systematic review. Scoping review is a preliminary plan that you can take to help you to do a systematic review. So I am using scoping review to find the nature of research in this area and also to identify future gaps or gaps in this area. So I adopted the 5-stage framework of Axie and Mali method of scoping as a guideline for the review. With the 5-stage, he talked about first, you have to identify the research questions. And 2, you have to identify the relevant studies. And 3, you look at the study selection. And 4, you look at the data charting. And the 5, you look at the collate, summarize, and report. So with the first, identifying the research questions, my questions for the review were which elements of quality of education do community and parents participate in the rural area? And what hinders or facilitates community and parent involvement in the quality of basic education in the rural area? So with this, I did the identifying the relevant, which is the second one. I did a search using keywords. With the keywords, I use the keywords, which is backwards. With the keywords, I used community participation, or with these booleans, community participation or community involvement, and parent participation or parent involvement, and primary education or basic education, and rural areas. I use it in the database EBSCOhost and education database of UAB, which is Autonomous University of Barcelona. And I looked from years 2006 to 2021 to get the literature that I want for my work. So with the study selection, I did the inclusion and exclusion. Like when I use this keywords, I got a lot of articles. I did the inclusion and exclusion on the articles that pertains to what I want to do. And then I settled on these 43 articles for my review. Actually, with this review, what I talked about was quality education. And with quality education, the UN has made us to understand that it's a goal to transform the world by 2030. And when they talk about quality education, they mean that it's equitable and standard education for all that will promote lifelong learning and the edge for knowledge. And when we talk about equitable for all, what they mean is that it's like we say the quality education is a human right that everybody is supposed to enjoy, irrespective of your locality. Wherever you live, you should be able to have quality education. Well, this is also about this human education, human right and education. I think Tomaszewski also talks about it and talks about 4 A's. That is, it talks about acceptability, it talks about adaptability, it talks about availability and accessibility. But he related acceptability to quality education and said that the structure and form of a quality education must be accepted by the parents and the children. That it must be relevant, culturally relevant to them. Yeah. So actually, when we talk about quality education, they said it's subjective. It's really difficult to define quality education. And a lot of people use different indicators to define quality education. With Adam and Chapman, they are saying that quality education is the input, is simply achieving the inputs, the process, the output, and the outcome. And the inputs they talked about, which is the amount of teacher training, the number of teachers, and the number of textbooks. And with the process, they talk about the amount of instructional time. And with the output, talk about test scores and the graduation rates. And with the outcome, they also talk about the performance in their subsequent employment. But with Chan and Tam, they added that the quality education, the set of elements in the inputs and the process and the outputs must be satisfied by the requirement and expectation of certain strategic constituents. And these strategic constituents are the parents, the community members, these are the stakeholders. So I try to look at what actually is involved in this quality education. Well, in looking at the quality education, I looked at what the UNICEF said. They listed certain dimensions in quality education. They listed certain 5 dimensions in quality education. They talk about the learner's affairs at home. They also spoke about the learning environment and the educational content, and talked about the process and also the outcome. I also look at the Norwegian Agency for Development, where he talks about quality. He gives similar elements of quality education. He talked about 6 similar elements. With the 6 similar elements, he talked about the teacher and the teaching methods, also the learning environment, the educational content, the school management, the precondition for the people, and also and also the funding and organization. Actually, with these similar elements that UNICEF and Norwegian Agency for Development has said, I look at which of these affect parent and community participation. Which of these can parent and communities involve themselves? So I looked at certain research to look at Kendall, who has done a lot in community and parents in rural places in Africa. And then Sumasuno, they listed a similar elements, but with their elements, I made a team out of their elements to analyze my review. And what they listed was the learning affairs of students. They talked about the school management, the school personnel, the funding, the educational environment, and the educational content. So my review was followed in this form, which I didn't put them here, but well, I'll look into my research design. Actually, the choice of any design in a research should be appropriate to the issue and the investigation, and should be informed by the researcher philosophical standpoint and basic assumptions about social reality and questions of epistemology. Yes, social reality, that is the ontology. When we talk about ontology, what is it? The ontology is actually the nature, the very nature and essence of social phenomena that is being investigated. But when we talk about social phenomena is just the individual and the external influences that affect our behavior and opinions. And that could be politics, it could be marriage, it could be racism, it could be wars, and the like. But the question here is that a social reality actually external of us, or is an individual, or is a product of individual consciousness? Is it something that is being imposed on us, or is something that came out from us? This bring about into these 2 views, which is the normalist and the realist. The normalists are saying no, the object of thought is merely words, and it is dependent on the knower. And the realist is saying, no, the object of thought is independent, it's not dependent on the knower. So this bring about the questions of epistemology. So that the normalists, when something is not dependent on the knower, it means they apply the scientific method. And when something is dependent, when the word is merely word, it means the person is thinking about the interpretive method. These questions of epistemology, and epistemology is what? Is the basis and nature of knowledge, how knowledge is acquired and how knowledge is communicated. So depending on the argument, how one align himself with the argument of the normalist and the realist views will uncover your knowledge will uncover knowledge of our social reality. And when we talk about knowledge as subjective or subjective with epistemology, so those who think knowledge is subjective and unique, they will always attach themselves or involve themselves with the subject and reject the scientific method. And those who think that knowledge is objective, knowledge is hard, will always go for the scientific method. With my research, the ontological assumptions begin to shape the methodological decision making, and it's dependent on whether the researcher sees social reality as external, independent, given and objectively real, or socially constructed, subjectively experienced, and the result of human thought as expressed through language. What I'm saying is that your researcher, the methodology that you are going to use will depend whether you think that knowledge or social reality is subjective or whether you think it's what is objective. And with my research, community and parent involvement I see it as a social construction where I am looking for complexity of viewpoints, which means that I have to use a particular type of data collection. And because my research, I'm focusing on different structures and participants who are working together in a network, it means I have to explore multiple forms of individual perspectives. And with that, with this ontological and epistemological assumption, I'm going to apply the qualitative approach for my research. What my research is also a case study. And according to Ian, he says that case study design facilitates an empirical inquiry well suited to investigating a contemporary phenomenon in depth and within its real life context. My research tool is parent community school involvement. It may be considered contemporary phenomenon as it has gained a considerable place in the quality of basic education. Also, case may be theoretical or empirical, and it may be relatively bounded objects. And with that definition, my research explores community and parent involvement in basic education with parent and community members being presented as what case studies. And one of the major reasons for opting for case study approach is that quite a small number of carefully selected respondents in a specific instance can provide information that is close up and highly context specific. And from the above, the study focuses on two rural communities in a Kumfi district in the central region of Ghana. And this is the central region of Ghana. According to the international news, central region is the poorest country in the southern part of Ghana. In Ghana, we have the north, the middle, and the southern parts. And with the central region, normally the northern part are farmers, the middle part they are farmers, and the southern part they are fishermen. But with central region, it has a bit of farm and then fishing communities in them. So I took the central region because it will have a reflection. Since it has both farming and fishing community, my research will look at one of the schools in the farming and one of the schools in the fishing area. And these are my participants for the research, which is parents, the students, the teachers, the headmasters, the PTAs, and the SMCs. And these are the sample of participants, the participants, the number of people that I will use or I'll go into to interview and to do focus group discussion. Actually, the focus group will be two focus group, which is PTA and the SMCs representing the community, and the teachers and the headmasters, there will be focus group on them. And then the interviews and documents search, I'll do interviews, individual interviews with parents and students. And then I'll do a document search of meetings, of PTAs, and then meetings in the school. Actually, this is my work. And then I look at my work plan for my PhD as the first year looks actually with my review, as I have listed here. And my research actually I'm doing it thesis by comparison, thesis by article, that I have to publish like 3 articles before I end. I have to, although the article cannot be published as soon as possible, but when they are accepted, I think it's also allowed. So these are the second year. As I'm entering the second year, I want to do my Erasmus stay here. And through that, this is the time that I will be preparing my research question, my secondary data to go to Ghana to also collect the field work, the data, the data. I'm going to do the data collection. And the next year, probably in the next semester, that is what I will be doing. And then the year 3, I'll be doing the analysis of the work. And this is exactly what my proposal is about and my plan of work too is about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have time for questions. So if you can click the just stop sharing the screen, then so probably see who is online. So if people at home have questions, or if you have questions, please go ahead. Otherwise, I will start if you can. If you already have some ideas on what the outcomes of your review are, results yet.
Yeah, I'm
First results.
Yeah, I've actually done some of them, which I'm still in the process, which I'm not entirely finished everything. But with the learners affairs, I looked at 3. I divided that into 3. Then the learning affairs look at the parents' assistance at the home, how they help their children at the home, and also looked at how certain indigenous assistance that they also give to the children at home, whether they build the children the kind of indigenous assistance, as in helping the children to know community, certain knowledge in the communities. All these were something I also talked about. And then there was also whether the parents are interested, the way they enact their involvement, whether they are interested in the children. What do they do to show that they are interested in the children's education? So there are certain, in the analysis, you find that most of them are not really interested. Some of them, you find that they will prefer that they take their children to farm instead of bringing their children to school. They said they leave most of the decision in the hands of the children, that the children could, when they get to like 10 years, they could make decision on their own, whether to go to school or not. These are some of the things that you will find, and it's very disheartening. Yeah, so some of the review, I also looked at the learning environment, where you find that most of the parents were, because they were not educated, they want to help their children, and that all that they think they can do because they are not educated is to help in labor, providing labor assistance for the schools. Whether the schools, there is any project, you find them there to all assist and help them. And sometimes in terms of the finances, you see that parents are also providing something. Yeah, some of them would not, but you find other people doing exactly that.
So in part, it's because the parents themselves haven't been to school, that they don't really value, or they don't know what is happening in school, or they don't value what's happening there. They think it might be better for the children to start working, so they have built their skills working instead of learning things in school.
That's what most of the parents think, that because they did not, some also feel like because they did not go to school, they don't want their children also to go through the same situation that they are. And therefore, they want to also offer some help for their children so that they could, change the kind of situation that they are in. They will never follow the same trend that they are going through. So some of these are some of the things that I was finding in some of the articles.
So if I'm thinking about how you can sort of resolve that, or is by making them more familiar with the school and the outcomes that schools can provide. So they can have better insight of what children learn when they are in school.
Do you plan intervention, or you just try to look what the situation is in these villages? How do you, to go out to research to have a change at the end?
Actually, that is the intent of it. With research, you want a change at the end, that when people find the research, they're able to also, policymakers could also take it and help. So all that we want to do is to come out with the things that happen. And when you look at the last part of the research question, you want how might they help to improve? So how can we assist them? So through that, we are going to get certain information that can help involve them, increase their involvement in the community.
That's the end result, is like the advice, or do you have a study where you, this case study, and you yourself try to have some changes and look what the effect is?
Are your case studies, are they going to be interventions or just studying what is happening at this moment? Are you going to intervene in like the practices that these schools are having at this moment, or are you going to see what they're?
Actually, I'm going to look at what the parents are also doing, because each places have their own way that they address things, or each location will have the way the parents also look at things, whether they are doing it or not. So as I have learned other things, I'm also going to see how these people perceive education and see how it can be of help to them, how we can also assist them in the community.
Expect difference between fishing villages and farming villages, because it seems like it was a very deliberate choice you made in your research.
I wanted to have a place that has those kind of profile where, because fishing and farming is a bit different, and therefore also with the farming community, you see that they also have a certain reflection with people. You could see that even if you want to do research as otherwhere, you could find that as a reflection. To help you to whatever you want to do, or if you want to scale up, do any projects that you want to do, you can look at the farming side and see how you can help other people living in the farming communities. So I wanted to look at the fishing, how the problem that comes from the fishing people, and also know what comes from the farming people. I just wanted to understand something like that.
Do you expect there are differences in terms of parental involvement in these?
I don't think there will be differences, but certainly the situation might change. Not really different, huge, but then maybe certain differences, but still, I don't know whether, I'm not sure if there will be absolute huge difference between what those in the fishing and the farming community will do. It's not. But then I just deliberately chose the two. Just deliberately chose. because that is what is seen there. That is normally the kind of activities that goes on there. Yeah, that's the kind of activities, like we have farming and then the fishing community, which are high profile when in such areas.
I know in reviews that have been done, for example, by Bakker and others into parental involvement, they found that like the biggest, in terms of the learning of the children, the biggest effects are found by programs that focus on home parental involvement. So what parents do at home has a bigger influence than parents, for example, taking part in councils in the school or things like that. And you said that these sort of you have two types of councils in these schools. Can you say something about whether you think that these are working as a good way to sort of give parents a voice in education and to enhance the development of the children? Or is that sort of enough?
Yeah.
These sort of councils.
Yeah. These councils are just to help when there are kind of development projects in terms of facilities. They have to, because sometimes you don't have to wait for the government to do everything. So these bodies are there to assist the rural schools, that they can help in terms of finance, in terms of maybe building certain facilities, could be toilet facilities, could be, these are there to help and assist the schools. But the parents also have to do their part in the home. And then they also have to come to the school and also do their part.
Yeah, so that's sort of more practical help for the school.
Yeah.
So that the school works as it should be. And what they're doing at home is actually intended to help the child.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's two different goals.
Yeah.
Can you say something more about if you're thinking now from what you know from your review study and from your own experiences, what kind of interventions would help in the context of Ghana to increase parental involvement?
Yeah, I think both the parents and the communities, I think we have to get them more involved. We have to train them more, bring them. I mean, some of the parents is sometimes it's even difficult because they said they don't really have time to come to school to even help them because they are going to work and all of that. So they complain a lot. And some even complain that the teachers do not even allow them in the schools. Yeah. So these are some of the things that we can talk to both the teachers and the schools and the parents to just have that kind of correlation, that cordiality that could make also the parents also feel happy when coming to assist in the schools.
So in a way, your focus groups might work as an intervention in itself.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to have these parents and teachers together to talk about their practices in terms of education between parents and teachers, that might actually help in making both parties be more aware of the other, and also maybe their communication will be better after that. It's quite interesting. Are there other questions maybe from Barbara online? Oh, that's you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No questions.
It's just sorry, I always see your name, but I never actually connected that to your face.
I'm actually here.
You are there, yeah. Do you have other questions?
No.
Thank you very much for telling us about your research and plans. See you back in November.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.